Hello and welcome to HBM's Crypto-Corner for Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. We have a couple of things to talk about, so let's get started. First of all, you guys may remember me talking about the thylacine, aka the Tasmanian tiger. Well, it turns out that the famous footage may not depict the last living thylacine after all. A still from a colorized video of a thylacine in Beaumaris Zoo in 1933. A new study reveals that this may not have been the last known living thylacine after all. Famous video of a thylacine in captivity may not depict the last individual of the species after all, according to new research. Australian scientists have rediscovered the preserved remains of a later thylacine in the collection of a museum in Tasmania. The story of the thylacine is a tragic one. Once widespread across Australia, this carnivorous marsupial went extinct on the mainland around 2,000 years ago, with a population persisting on the southern island of Tasmania into the 20th century. The thylacine was considered a pest by European settlers and hunted relentlessly, thanks to a bounty placed on their heads. Government protections weren't brought in until 1936. Mere months before the last known member of the species died in captivity. One reason the story might resonate so strongly with people is that there's video footage, originally shot on 16mm film, of this last living individual. The ending, pacing around its dank, featureless cage in the years before its death. Often erroneously referred to as Benjamin, the thylacine in the video is said to have died on September 7, 1936, closing the book on its entire species. But new research suggests the animal in the video was actually the second last thylacine. The male thylacine, made famous by the photos and video, actually died in May 1936, according to researchers Robert Paddle and Catherine Medlock. While investigating unpublished archives, the team found that shortly after Benjamin died, the zoo obtained another thylacine, an old female specimen, and this was the true ending of the species that died on September 7th. The reason for the secrecy seems to be that the transaction was a bit shady. The thylacine was apparently caught by Elias Churchill, a local trapper who sold it to the zoo in mid-May 1936. The sale was not recorded or publicized by the zoo because, at the time, ground-based snaring was illegal and Churchill could have been fined, said Paddle. The thylacine skin now linked to the last known individual of the species. The team made this fascinating discovery while investigating a related mystery, that of the whereabouts of the thylacine endlings' remains. Records from the zoo indicated that the remains had been transferred to the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery in 1936, but there seemed to be no record from the museum side. So Paddle and Medlock set out to track them down by investigating unpublished archives from both the zoo and the museum. For years, many museum curators and researchers searched for its remains without success, as no thylacine material dating from 1936 had been recorded in the zoological collection, and so it was assumed its body had been discarded, said Paddle. The mention of a Tasmanian tiger thylacine in a previously unpublished taxidermist report provided a vital clue to unraveling the mystery. On closer inspection, however, the team discovered a clue in the previously unpublished report from the museum's taxidermist. A thylacine was mentioned among the list of specimens worked on between 1936 and 1937, prompting the researchers to review all thylacine remains in the TMAG collection. And sure enough, they identified a thylacine skin and skeleton for which no data had been recorded. The teeth showed an even wear pattern that indicated the animal had been very old when it died, and the skull matched perfectly with the head of the skin. The team concluded these two pieces were the long-lost remains of the last thylacine, and the reason they hadn't been registered in the museum's collection was because they'd been delegated to a traveling, hands-on education exhibit. The thylacine skull now linked to the last known individual of the species. The pattern of wear of the teeth indicated it was from a very old animal. The thylacine body had been skinned, and the disarticulated skeleton was positioned on a series of 5 cards to be included in the newly formed education collection overseen by museum science teacher Mr. A.W.G. Powell, said Medlock. The arrangement of the skeleton on the cards allowed museum teachers to explain thylacine anatomy to students. The skin was carefully tanned as a flat skin by the museum's taxidermist, William Cunningham, which meant it could be easily transported and used as a demonstration specimen for school classes learning about Tasmanian marsupials. With the mystery now apparently cleared up, the remains have been put on public display in TMAG in Hobart, Tasmania. The paper is due to be published on the Australian Zoologist website. So, something very interesting. The last known thylacine filmed may not have been the last known thylacine. Very interesting. Finally, watch Bigfoot filmed by boaters in Canada. And here's the footage in question.
Rocky Mountain Sasquatch. There has been a lot of Bigfoot activity in Ontario, Canada recently, and there is also a long history of Bigfoot sightings in this wild, remote area. Recently, we have seen a lot of photos and videos of Bigfoot in the area. Here is one of the latest Bigfoot sightings captured by some boaters. I'll play it through and then I'll zoom in on the subject and then play it again at full speed and then slow it down so that we can get a better look at the Sasquatch-like subject on video. It appears the boaters are going closer to land to get a better look at what they just saw. When I replay this again, I want you to notice the camouflage color of the Bigfoot. The grass and the foliage on the ground, it's nearly the same color. Here's the original again. I'm going to play it forward and backwards for you, and then I'm going to zoom in on it. Here's the zoomed at normal speed, forwards and backwards. I didn't want to zoom too much. I didn't want it to get too pixelated. That thing is the same color as the undergrowth. If it laid down, you probably would not be able to see it unless you knew it was there. Just amazing camouflage, great color for the environment. I'm going to play the normal clip again and then the zoomed and the slowed again so that you guys can check out the subject. I'm not saying it's Bigfoot. It just looks like Bigfoot. I think it walks really fluidly. If someone set this up, it looks like they would have practiced because the fluidity that it moves reminds me of Patty. I hope you guys enjoyed a look at a North Ontario Bigfoot-like creature. Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatching.
Now, Thinker Thunker also did an analysis on this video, and you notice that the individual, if it is a real Sasquatch, actually leans forward as it walks, much like the Patterson-Gimlin film subject. And Thinker Thunker pointed that out, by the way. Now, when Thinker Thunker did his analysis, he had the footage going in the opposite direction. So, but it's very interesting if it's real. But again, what is needed is a body or a piece of a body. Video like this is not going to cut it. But here's the article. An intriguing video from Canada shows a remarkably clear view of what appears to be a Bigfoot walking in a wooded area near a large body of water. The fantastic footage was shared online by the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization, which indicated that boaters in the northern part of Ontario had recently filmed a strange scene. Unfortunately, the specific time and location of the sighting, as well as the identity of the witnesses, are all unknown at this time. Be that as it may, the footage constitutes one of the more jaw-dropping alleged Bigfoot videos to appear online simply by virtue of its unambiguous nature. In the footage seen above, the boaters are filming a nearby forested shoreline when a large bipedal creature covered in fur emerges from the woods and walks across an open area until disappearing back into the trees. Notably, the suspected Sasquatch boasts a coloring that allows it to largely blend into its surroundings. It swings its arms in a fashion reminiscent of the star of the famed Patterson-Gimlin film. Unlike many purported Bigfoot videos, the footage is particularly interesting as the oddity in the footage is undeniably some kind of bipedal figure and can be clearly seen for approximately 6 seconds, which is a rather long time for one to get such a glimpse of the elusive cryptid. Given what can be seen in the video, there are only a handful of possible suspects for what the creature could have been, beginning with Sasquatch, of course. More skeptical viewers might argue that the animal is actually a bear walking on 2 legs, though that explanation is something of a stretch in light of how smoothly the beast moves. The other explanation that cannot be discounted is that the video is a well-crafted hoax, either produced on-site using a person in a suit or, failing that, after the fact by way of a digital manipulation. With that in mind, what do you make of the wild footage? Share your thoughts with us at the Coast to Coast AM Facebook page. So, is this actual footage of a Sasquatch? Who knows? Entirely possible. Could be, but also could not be. Either way, it won't solve the mystery. And that's going to do it for this week. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. You guys are the heart of the show. I always say that, but I always mean it. And I'll continue to do this as long as you guys want me to. I think I'm going to go bi-weekly until the new year. So there won't be a show next week, but there'll be a show the week after. So, until 2 weeks from now, y'all be good or be good at it. It's May-HBM's Crypto Corner.